Hey guys, I just wanted to do a quick video just to show you an issue that I came across yesterday. If just hoping that if anyone else comes across the same issue, they'll be able to get past it a lot quicker than what it took me. So this is a little Yamaha 3 horsepower two-stroke from 2004, but I believe they made the same motor from like the early 90s up to around 2018. And that's just off the top of my head, so I don't know the exact years, but it was made for quite a long time. So this would probably cover quite a few model years. So if yours looks like this, chances are this will help you if you need to get the carburetor off. Okay, so I'll try and make it fairly quick. I'm not actually going to remove the parts. Already had to do that last night, but hopefully this will show you exactly what you need to do. Now, obviously, you want to take the top cowl off first, which is probably not the easiest thing to do with one hand. There we go. Now, this video sort of assumes that you got some knowledge of mechanics, so I'm not going to go over how to disassemble the carburetor and whatnot, but it should show you how to get it off, and the problem that I came across with it. So the first thing that you want to do is you've got to remove this front plate here. It's got your choke and your stop kill switch on it, and also the pull cord. Now, because I only needed to remove the carburetor, I was able to, thankfully, just undo these two 10mm bolts up here, and then you've got this choke mechanism down here, which hopefully this camera will show. Basically, right there, you've got a little pin that sticks out, and once you've undone the two 10mm bolts at the top, you can gently move this and slide it that way, and this whole piece will just come off, and that pin will remain where it is. So that will separate. After that, it's being held in by the wires to the kill switch and the pull cord. All I did, because I needed to access the carburetor, was pull this up, and it did sit up here relatively easily. So that wasn't a problem at all. That's quite easy to do. Okay, where I started to come into run into issues with this, which looking at it now, they've actually done quite a good design with the motor, but I just didn't realise last night. Under here is your carburetor and your fuel pump, and what I tried to do, thinking that in order to get the carburetor off I'd have to undo these, is to undo. There's a bolt down there which I just could not get to. The spanner just wouldn't get on it. Nothing would get on it. And there's also a few bolts on this side here, for example. Now, looking at it now, that doesn't actually have to come off at all. That's just a plate that separates where the carb is and the actual power unit. But basically, all you actually have to do, because if you try and take this off, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, I guess, but there's two bolts here as well, one here and one down in there that you can't see. And basically I took this bolt off, but it wouldn't go past the cowling. It was driving me nuts. I didn't even know. I could feel something was holding it in underneath, but I couldn't work out what it was. And basically I was there sitting there for quite a long time going, how on earth do I get this whole thing out? Because you can't move it forward anywhere. And it's just, there's no way of getting this out in where it's sitting in there. So what you've got to actually do, and once I realised it was quite easy, you've got two screw on each side here with a little clip. Hopefully that'll show you. So that'll unscrew. You've got to unscrew that completely. Just take the screw off, try not to lose it. Then that'll pull up. Same thing on this side. One handy little tip: when you go to put it back on, make sure that that rubber piece is still there and sitting like it is. Don't try and put it on the opposite way. It's easy to do, but it's not the correct position. Anyway, once you've undone those two, all right, underneath here, just trying to. Sorry guys, I've only got my phone camera. But basically under here, right there and right there, are two 10mm bolts that hold the bottom of the cowling in. They have to come off, and what will happen then, you can see there's a split down here, and that pretty much runs the entire way around the motor. And this whole piece here will just come off. There's nothing else holding it in. Just one word of advice, just be careful with, especially with the older models that have been out in the weather. Those bolts underneath can be seized and can snap quite easily. Unfortunately, one of the ones that I took off snapped, but thankfully the other one didn't, so it's still in there pretty well. But if you snap both of them, then you'll have a bit of a hard time trying to put it back together. Anyway, once you've got that off, all you've got to do is undo this little screw which holds the throttle cable, and you've got the two bolts here. Everything's mainly 10mm, so you got one there, one under here, which obviously once this is gone you can access, and as soon as you've done that, the carburettor just comes straight off like that. The only other thing that you have to do is to take this fuel line off, and I've still got to put that clip back on correctly. If it's old, it's going to be a little bit difficult. You just got to gently try and prise it off without damaging the fuel line. But yeah, that's essentially how you get it off. Hopefully, if I ever have to take it off again, I'll do a video of actually showing it being disassembled. At the moment, I don't have the time, unfortunately, to go and take it off again. But yeah, hopefully that will help someone if you got this particular motor. If you've got any questions, just put them below. I'll see if I can answer them for you. One other thing, just while I remember, is to make sure when you put the bolts back underneath, put some grease on them to stop them seizing up. I mean, that's the general thing you would do with most bolts in an outboard like that anyway. But yeah, just something to remember. And then obviously when you go and put this back on, just make sure that this is tensioned correctly, because if you forget this, or you tighten it and it sits up too far, for example, if you've got the throttle control right at the bottom, so it should be idling, but that's sitting like that, it's just going to rev its head off as soon as you start it off. So you've got to make sure that goes back correctly. Alright, well thanks guys, hopefully this will help someone get past the issue that I had, which was driving me nuts. But yeah, I'll leave the video there, but if you got any other questions, happy to help, just ask below. Alright, see ya.